Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. A bit of a difference tonight. We were against Bournemouth and got a draw, which is good. And a couple more. End of season dinner is now on sale from our website. It's on the 29th of April at 7 p.m. And all OSC members who are season ticket holders should have had an email to vote for their player of the season. So I look forward to the votes coming in. The ones that have come in, it's very, very close between two players. So get your votes in if you want a certain player to win. Fans Forum is on the 1st of May. We are going to be putting that on sale in the next couple of days. It'll be on social media when that goes ahead. And also Memorabilia Fair on the 4th of May in the Legends Lounge. We can revert back to the Legends Lounge now. So if anybody would like a table, if anybody is decluttering and would like to get rid of some bits and pieces, then contact us and we'll arrange for you to have a table. Just £10. All of the proceeds from the table sales and our donations and everything will be made to our charity of the year. Right, we've been contacted by Paul Constable, and I'll just read this to you. Paul is going to be running in the London Marathon, and he is going to raise money for Make-A-Wish Foundation. As you all know, very, very worthwhile cause, making children's dreams come true who have life-limited illnesses. So he's had only 12 weeks to train, and it was his first ever marathon. So he says it's tough, but an exciting journey. So we wish you all the best, Paul. And I'm going to put up Paul's fundraising page number, link if anybody would like it. Also, we will be putting this up on socials in the next 3 days as well. So good luck, Paul, and let us know how you're on. Known Els at the Town End Forum. A lot of people didn't meet her, but they knew her through her ex account. Unfortunately, or devastating news, that she passed away at late February. So Victoria Els Miller was her full name. And so we send all our best to her family and her friends, and rest in peace, Els, and we'll miss your posts on Twitter. But you are now joined again with your dad. So not good news for that. So all the best. And thank you for Mike Dixon for sharing that information with us. He is going to put all the comments from Twitter and everything into a book or a folder or something to give to the family. So if you have any memories of Els or just a comment to make, please do that on Mike's post, and they will all go to the family. Okay, so let's bring Vic on. I have no idea which one he's on now, so we'll try this one.
Hi, Chris. Can you see me on that one?
You're here now, Vic.
Sorry?
We can see you on that one, yeah. We can see you, yeah.
Yeah, my laptop is now working. So, excellent. Yeah, I'll get rid of the other one then in that case. Okay, so we won't get any interference. How about that? Sorry about that. Yeah, problems with the internet tonight in far off Devon, so apologies for that. And of course, I have my very best wishes to the family of Victoria Els Miller as well. And as you've said, thanks to Mike for letting us know about that. Very sad, and she'll be missed by many people, I'm sure. Right, I've got some SAS travel news for you. They've got seats left for Grimsby on Good Friday, departing the county ground at 7:45 a.m. That's at a.m. Members are £37, non-members £39. And there are not many left on the second coach for Gillingham, which is our final away game of the season. So people need to be quick for that one. Departs the county ground at 10 a.m. Members £22, non-members £24. So Laura, thanks very much indeed for the SAS travel news tonight, and that's the details that Laura has given me. So seats available for both Grimsby and for Gillingham, but particularly for Gillingham, be very quick because they need to get that second coach booked. So if you could let her know that as quickly as possible, that would be great. There you are.
Excellent. We've had a couple of questions in, which I will answer now. Nick, thank you for that. Are the new white shirts that are being worn on Saturday being auctioned for the charity? I don't know, but I will certainly find out, and we can let everybody know about that. And Anthony, you saying it's Clark all right for player of the season, for player of the year? Not quite right. There is one other person. It's high up on the rankings. So, so nearly right. So, okay, so let's bring everybody on and we will get started. So we've got Mr. Hawes. Come on.
Hello.
Being a bit slow. Come on.
Hello.
Or else they're being shy. Come on.
John, hello.
There we go. There's John.
Hello.
It's not playing its game.
I think we're all having internet problems tonight, Chris, aren't we?
Right.
Hello.
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 Oh, hello. Oh, he's gone again.
John should be able to.
Hello, this is the Kirkintilloch jury.
Hello, hello, hello.
We're just having a bit of trouble. It's not liking bringing people on.
Hello, Mr.
Right,
Hall.
explain something then, Vic, while I do this.
Yes, okay. I'll give you all the details of Saturday's game, obviously in a little while, because we need to go through that fine win away from home. Obviously, the internet is not playing well tonight, so I don't know what's going on with it, but it's moving pictures going around this internet at the moment and on my laptop, which is I'm not sure who's there. Is Craig there? Are you there, Craig?
I'm there, Vic. How are you?
I'm all right, I think, at the moment. Yes. Anna, are you okay?
I'm here at the moment.
You are at the moment, but who knows for how long? John is. Hello.
Hello. John. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and we can see you. And here comes Gus from the United States of America. Hello, Gus.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. Well, we haven't quite got you yet. We don't think. We'll see how the internet works. And we got Mr. Hawes still to come in. That's the last one. Anyway, we'll carry on with the elite squad that we've got at the moment. Gus, thank you very much indeed for joining us for the good old US of A. John is judging backgrounds tonight, so we'll judge John's background as well as we go along. Anna, hello to you, and Craig, hello to you. Right, let's start off with Saturday then. And Fleetwood 0, Swindon Town 4, of course. Gamongo Shimanga on 38 minutes with a penalty. Miguel Freckleton, his first goal for Swindon and indeed EFL goal on 47 minutes. Reece Bennett own goal on 75. Namdi Offerball on 88 minutes. Shimanga, we should say, got the one yellow card of the entire game on 45 minutes for a bit of an argument with the referee. Anna, your view of it?
Oh, I don't know. It's what it's all about, isn't it? Really, it's one of those trips that makes all the other ones worthwhile, I suppose. We haven't seen an awful lot of wins this season away, have we? And I mean, I didn't go to Morecambe. I think I was lucky in that respect. But yeah, great. Great performance, really. Did almost coasted it second half. Because, Fleetwood were very poor, weren't they? Really, they were right off their game as opposed to the two preceding games. And Pete Wild spoke to that. Said they're inconsistent, which to some extent we are as well. Perhaps it mirrors a little bit our season in that you can't string more than a couple of wins together. So, but great. Sun was shining. Great company, Craig. What more could you ask for in a way? And 4-0 clean sheet. So yeah, very very nice day. Very nice day. easy trip back.
I've been very lucky actually with 3 very sunny days, A on Saturday and B Sunday and today watching Somerset at Taunton. So been very lucky with the weather. Fine cricketing start to the season. Craig, I didn't catch up with you on Saturday. I kept waving at you, but you kept running away. I don't blame you, quite frankly. So how was it from bonny old Scotland watching?
Yeah, I was always told to stay away from old men who waved at me. But it was lovely to see you from a distance. But I'm sorry, our eyes didn't meet. It was as Anna said. And also, man, it was always a joy to catch up with you. It's been far too long. So we travelled en masse from Scotland. The Scottish branch of the sports club travelled. So that's largely Rich and I travelled, and Rich's flag got some coverage on telly, which was nice to see. Glorious day, fantastic weather for driving and for going to the football. So I'd stayed in the pub to the last possible moment and was nattering to people and catching up, and then sat on the side, and then at half time I moved around to behind the goal. So the football, well, for once the football was great. Normally I go to these events and say what a great day out, a pity about the football, but the football was good as well. I thought Fleetwood were good the first 15 minutes. They looked quite lively, but we just we just pressed a bit better, and it, but yeah, it was a bit of a parade in the second half. I thought it was just, how many are we going to score? But just a pity that that was the deadest of dead rubbers, really, wasn't it? And I think the remaining 5 games are going to be like that as well. But it's just good to see that we can do that. It's just a pity we didn't do it a bit more often this season. But yeah, great day out.
Yeah, I think one of the previous occasions when we went to Fleetwood, we listened to Captain Pugwash get played 5 times after they'd scored. I was kind of hoping that our away travelling on the terracing would actually sing it for them when we scored, but it never happened, and that would have been good. John, you were sat in front of me, and it was exceptionally hot, was it not? Those of us who were dressed for a bit cooler climes were somewhat taken by surprise. So how was it for you?
Yeah, no, it was a good. I'd echo most of it. It was a good day out. It's nice to see us win. It's nice to see us win comfortably, not having that last nail-biting last 5 minutes when we're hanging on to a lead. I'd tell you it was the best game of football I've ever seen. I'm pretty no, it wasn't. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't the best, but I enjoyed it. I was thinking about this. I think we're very pragmatic now, and I think we've probably got to be to get results. Fairly no risk. Nothing too elaborate. And I hope when we can get out of this division, we can start being elaborate and go slightly more attractive.
Interesting. We'll discuss that maybe a little bit later. Gus, watching it on the screen, listening, no doubt, Mr. Hawes' commentary. How was it for you? Because it was a pretty comfortable. I mean, I would say for the first 30 minutes or so in the heat, it was a bit of a snooze fest, quite frankly. And I'm sure there were moments when some of us might well have dropped off, but then it all picked up. Swindon's performance was great. We got a 4-0 victory. How about that?
Well, it was a fun game to watch. The first 15 minutes, as you said, were not exciting, and I think the first real challenge came from Fleetwood, as one of their players kicked the ball over the goal. And I thought, I'm looking outside, and it was absolutely gorgeous here too. And my garden was calling me, and I thought, is this, what are we going to do here? But I stuck it out, and it was absolutely worth it. I mean, 4 goals by 3 different people. I think Kabongo Shamanga, he is an elite penalty kicker. I mean, he doesn't miss. That's really huge. Played some new players, which was kind of exciting. If you're Coach Holloway, you're doing the right things to make people want to come here, which is, to come to Swindon and play. I think they're just doing everything here late in the season to set us up for a good year next year.
Well, let's hope you're right. I mean, Shamanga's penalty taking is exceptional. That's 3 in a row without reply, if you take into account the 2 previous ones in the previous game. And I was asked the question, when was the last time that happened, Andrew Hawes? And I seem to remember Trevor Anderson against Walsall way back in the 1970s. And then I checked it on the bus coming back, and he got 3 penalties in a row in the famous Leicester Shakhtar game, with 4 penalties in it. I mean, it was an exceptional performance from him to get 3 penalties like that, so coolly taken.
Yeah, no, it was really good. And the thing I kind of liked was, anyone would have seen the 2 penalties and seen him go the same way, and that's the way the keeper went, and he just kind of waited and told him and made him commit himself, and then just kind of rolled it down the middle with a bit of confidence, really. So it's nice to see your penalty taker have different kind of methods to suitably bamboozle goalkeepers, because he's got that kind of stuttering run up, and he's got the more sort of powerful shot, I guess.
Talking of goalkeepers, Andrew, let's give Bycraft a bit of a shout out, because he made one very important save before Swindon scored, didn't he?
Yes, yeah. So it's the kind of shot from long range, isn't it, from Neil? And I don't know if it bends a bit in the air, or maybe those behind the goal can remember that. But he's kind of managed to sort of stick out an arm and divert it away. So it kind of looked unusual, but that's first law of goalkeeping is to keep ball out of net by any means necessary, and then worry about the aesthetics afterwards. And
how was the first 30 minutes to commentate on? Because were you counting goals, or as in GULLS, or were you doing other things?
It was pretty quiet. I was perhaps drifting a little bit in the sunshine, but Jonathan Smith was kind of poking me to keep me awake. It did have a fairly sort of end of season feel, even though Fleetwood were nominally on the edge of the playoff race at the time. But I don't think the pitch helped them. But yeah, it was kind of fairly quiet. But once the goal had arrived, and after that, Swindon just kind of kicked on. And apart from that little sort of flurry when Fleetwood were 2-0 down and stuck a few balls into the box, had a goal disallowed for offside, it was about as calm as you could remember. And I didn't have any kind of Accrington vibes after being 4-0 up, which is rather nice.
I think we all had that moment, didn't we, Anna? That when he made those substitutions towards the end, we thought, a cold night at Accrington. We seem to remember that.
Yeah, I definitely had that thought flit through my mind, but it's so vastly different now, isn't it? And those lads, I think, had less time to play, and we were just so comfortable. Really, there was never any danger of succumbing in that way. I think Holloway mentioned it in his post-match. There was a point in about the 90 plus whatever minute where Glatzel closed down one of their defenders and forced a throw. I don't know if you remember that. And that reference is really just to the amount of legwork that those players were doing the whole game, especially in the second half. Not just what up to 90 minutes or even up to 80 minutes. But we were so comfortable because of that, because we didn't give them an inch even at the death, and that's testament to just turning to Glatzel as well. I thought Glatzel put in a fantastic shift, and he might not be scoring goals, but the setup for our second was brilliant, and the ground he covers to close down the defence and not give them the angles was brilliant, and he definitely earned his second start. So maybe he'll still be around next season and can push on from there. But it's Holloway said that's what he wants, and I think that's what everyone wants to see those that amount of work going in, because they're playing for him and they're playing for the shirt, I think. So
definitely, yeah. I mean, Craig Anna's kind of stolen my thunder, because I was going to mention Paul Glatzel, not only his work rate, but his crosses. I mean, the one for Miguel Freckleton, who we'll mention in a minute, because I think he deserves a special mention. That cross for him was absolutely superb, wasn't it? And then he put another one in a bit later on, and you think, well, actually, perhaps Paul Glatzel could be a winger here. I mean, the quality of his crosses were superb.
No, I mean that cross in particular. I was stood just next to Anna when that came in, and we had a stunning view of it. And I thought actually he'd overhit it, but Freckleton just emerged from nowhere, and it was just perfect. It was just a perfectly weighted ball. But I mean I certainly agree with Anna. He looks a much better player than when I last saw him, and I've not seen this play for a few weeks, but. Was really impressed with him, and I also just note also Harry Smith. I think Harry Smith's role is changed as the season's developed, and I it's on paper you go, well, here's a striker who's not in form, he's not scoring goals, but is the work that he's doing off the ball, and as a tall player, you're always going to be called upon to do that with your back to goal. But I think. Both Glatzel and Smith, the kind of two the two strikers up top, weren't on the score sheet but worked really hard. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I thought that cross was superb, exquisite, and it just had a little bit of a curl on it as well. And really good to see, and we had a great angle.
Yeah, it was a fabulous cross. It is from Mike. Gus, does Gus have to worry about tariffs on his internet feed of our games? Bit of a political comment there, but we'll leave it there, shall we? And if so, how much percentage, I wonder. Anyway, your view of that second goal. I mean, it was magnificent. Where we were, when you have a winger who puts a ball in, you want it to be like that so people can go in and attack it. Is that how it seemed to you?
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen so many plays, both set plays and also passing like that, where the ball goes wildly long usually. And I just think to myself, like, this is a little bit different, but a corner kick, when you don't even put it into play, basically, you just kick it so long that nobody has a chance. These are things that we should be doing 94% of the time well, and maybe we do it earlier in the season, doing it 50% of the time well. And as you see us getting better at them, I think that's Coach Holloway. I think it's the players getting more confidence. I think, we have, when I know there were a few people who were ill and couldn't play, but we have more good players than we have places to put them now, and that's not always the case. A lot of times you're trying to play the chessboard and figure out how you can minimize the damage of playing your lesser players. But I mean, and Drinan hasn't been in. I mean, there are some really good players who haven't even been able to play, but we got good folks. And I guess my question to the knowledgeable crowd, because I don't know this, usually here, when you have good folks, they will get poached. Every other team will look and say, we want Danny Buttersworth. We want Aaron Drinan. We want, Kabanga Shamanga. And it's all about money a lot of times. So hopefully we can keep these folks around.
Yeah, well, Drinan's contract is up, isn't it, Andrew? And of course, he's been out injured and will miss the rest of the season. So, unfortunately, I think we have missed him. There's no question about this. Do you not agree with that? I mean, he was in the form of his Swindon life, if you like, before we got that injury. So, would he be the sort of player that Holloway will be desperately wanting to sign for next season?
I would think so, because when he sort of told us that he was out of contract, he made a pretty sort of, we kind of followed up and he made a pretty sort of favourable statement about what he brought to the team. So I would think, I would be very surprised if there's not something at least on the table for him, because he had, certainly got that impact going in that sort of right side. And Glatzel, there's a lot of good things there, but I guess, the manager's probably right. There hasn't quite been that real sort of punch, if you like, down that right hand side. Perhaps so Glatzel brings different qualities. So and that's going to be another one of the things that will happen in the reshaping of the squad. I think he's talked about this a lot. There's a lot of sort of quite similar players in the squad. It's perhaps bringing in, letting some of them go and letting others, or trying to get others in that will bring sort of attributes. We don't necessarily have a massive amount of pace in the team. We don't have a kind of real sort of traditional winger type in the squad as such, much as we've got the wide forward places. So although the kind of squad has come together well, I'm sure there will be some kind of tinkering with it to that point of view, just to make it a bit more different and a bit more flexible than perhaps what we've got.
John, are you listening to us, or are you having a crafty cigarette outside, do you think?
He's having a Hamlet moment.
He's just... yeah, he is. Are you there, John? No, he's having problems with his internet. Craig, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back in on Gus's point, actually. I think that issue about, players being poached, players being bought, we are where we are. We're obviously a selling club. But we've got an interesting situation. We've got these 5 games left. Does Holloway put the kids on, give them experience, and risk lose? I mean, Botan Amin, I guess, is the obvious one. I mean, I don't know what his contract position is, but I mean, I'm aware that people are watching him. So do we allow him to be watched? Do we play into the potential scouts' hands and risk losing him? Do we want to do that and command a fee for him? Do we want to hold on to him? I think he's the great kind of the great hope for us, I think, for next season, if he stays. But he'd also selling him with add-ons might, be the resource that gets us over the line and keeps us afloat next year. But I mean, that'd be interesting for me to see what happens in these final 5 games. Is it, we're playing teams who are around the playoffs. We're playing top of the table on Saturday. We want to give a good account of ourselves, but do we also just want to kind of blood in some of the youngsters? And that's always an issue. I think this time of the season is a funny one now, isn't it? What's the squad going to look like? What's the team, the starting 11 going to look like?
John, are you there? Are you listening to us? Can you hear us? It's a long way to Manchester, I think it's fair to say. Right, let's have a look at what else we got on here. Shocking tackle by Owen Davenport on Shimanga. Should have been a red, says Daz. Actually, Anna, we could have had 2 penalties in one, really, couldn't we? Because we're all saying that's a penalty, the first tackle. Then the second tackle, he gave the penalty for. So what was your view of that?
Yeah, I think to be honest, too far away. When it's down the other end, it's really difficult to see exactly what's gone on. I thought the second challenge on Glatzel was definitely a foul. Couldn't tell you the challenge on Harry, if that's what you're referring to. So it's just such a distance away that you're lucky if you see the ball go in the net sometimes. That's not just my age, but I didn't think it was. I mean, we've had worse games in terms of challenges, haven't we? Some of the home games recently, the opposition have come in to rough us up a little bit. But I think now we're kind of a different metal, aren't we? We give as good as we get in many respects. You've got Harry's not going to be a pushover, is he, either when he's up front or at the back? And I think that's really important, that we can stand up and just tough it out sometimes. And in the past, we've been a little bit powder puff, I would say. And that probably applies to all the players. Even Wesley coming on, he can stand up to it as well.
Yeah, he can.
So, I mean, the credit, as we said before, to Shimanga for not following the same route as he did with the previous 2 penalties for the home game and sending the keeper the wrong way, because the keeper must have been thinking about that, I'm sure, as you said. But good to see the 3 goals down at our end second half, because that's when you really get into it probably. And having Freckleton score right in front of us, good for him as well.
Well, let's talk about Freckleton, because here's a player that at the beginning of the season was labouring under certain comments, I think it's fair to say. And you felt, here's a young player whose career may well be over, Craig. But my goodness me, he came back, and I voted him man of the match on the way home on Saturday, purely because of his goal and his attitude. And I don't think he made any mistakes at all. I thought he had a fine game. So what's your view on Miguel Freckleton? I think he's a young man who's battled through the bad times and has come out the right side, hasn't he?
He's a 2 seasons in one for him, isn't it? I think we all felt for him right at the start of the season, and the more he played, the more nervous he was getting, the more mistakes he was making, the more stick he was getting, and it was. I think there was we kind of as supporters and as a club, we owed a duty of care to the poor man, because it clearly wasn't a good time for him. But it's a great story, a great comeback, and I wouldn't disagree with that as a man of the match vote, Rick. I think that's about right. He had a great game. I mean, we're talking about that. I mean, wow, what he's really come back, hasn't he? So no debate for me about that, and it's just. See what happens for the rest of the season now, but it's good. That's warm and fuzzies. You want that at the end of the season, don't you?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And you'd have to be very hard-hearted indeed not to wish him well after that performance on Saturday and that goal. So that's how I felt. I mean, Gus, you don't know the backstory to this, do you? Really, because earlier in the season he had a lot of trouble in terms of his performances and indeed with the previous manager's comments, which. Put a bit of a burden on him, but he's come back since injury, and I think what Coach Holloway's done, to use your term, is to make him play simple football, and I think that's what's coming across, isn't it?
He looked great to me. I knew there was something. You'd mentioned this before in a previous show. I knew there was something. Maybe he had a very poor performance in one of the early games or something. But you couldn't have asked more out of him yesterday on Saturday, could you? I mean, he played really, really well. I did want to mention one other thing too that stuck out at me at the game. This is something that we don't have in U.S. sports other than soccer, which is own goals. And when it happened, the player who did it for Fleetwood, Reese Burnett, he's the guy who also, I think, fouled Shimanga for the first. So he was having a terrible game, and you just have to think, I mean, there's almost nothing that is going to take your heart out than scoring a goal against your own team, and every player out there fears it or has done it. And after it happened, obviously the ball was being kicked to Harry Smith, and he was right behind Bennett or Burnett, who kicked the ball in. And he went over and he kind of rubbed him on the back of the neck. And in the U.S., I think somebody would have walked up right next to him and given him the business, been like, great, buddy, thing. And it did not look at all to me like that was what Harry Smith was doing. It looked like he honestly was like, look, we've all been here. Get back on the horse and keep riding. You're going to have a better day, And I thought it was just a real touch of class. We look at Harry Smith and he's battling physically and mentally with other players all the time. And I thought it was just a really solid moment for the club, for him, for everybody. So, and the other thing that I just want to mention, I not take too much of time, but I love any team that has a cod for their mascot. I had no idea that I see this cod army stuff, and then I saw the mascot, who apparently is a female cod who had a bow, but I don't think cod have hair, so I don't know how a bow hooked to her head somehow. I don't know the history of that, but any unusual mascot is always a good mascot. So.
Well, Craig is our mascot expert. So if you want to come in.
Yeah, I often thought that if I was ever to go on Mastermind, that mascots of the lower leagues would be my specialist. But also the Scottish versions. Arbroath, who play in the Scottish First Division, so the third tier, who are doing very well this season. Their mascot is Smoky Joe. Now, Arbroath is famous for its smoke, as it's smoked fish, yeah. But Smoky Joe, unfortunately, looks, well, you wouldn't know that he was a fish to look at him. He looks like frankly, he looks like the poo emoji, the kind of brown kind of triangle. So that's my favourite at the moment is Smoky Joe, because Smoky Joe looks like a pile of poo. But a fish.
Well, face fish, of course, at Grimsby, wasn't it? They were famous for having inflatable. Was that cods? Was it haddocks? Which one was Harry the haddock? Was that?
I think that was Grimsby.
That was Grimsby.
Yeah. I feel like it was.
They've got the Mariner though, haven't they?
Oh, they have. That's right. Yeah, but in the days when inflatables were a big thing, Gus, people used to take these to games, and we had robins, I think, for a brief while. But used to wave them around in the crowd. It was all a bit bizarre, but. It took the heat out of a lot of the hooliganism, I think, that we had in the 70s and 80s and made football a more enjoyable experience. Andrew, Freckleton, I know you interviewed him. We talked about this the other week, a couple of weeks back, and he came across as a very mature young man. And to have been through what he's been through, you must have been delighted to have seen that goal as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's kind of Gus alluded to, and you've all alluded to, they sort of made the game a bit simpler for him. I think it helped perhaps he came in at left back when he came back in rather than centre back. So if you do make a kind of mistake out wide, it's not always quite as costly. So that's a lot. But yeah, he's pretty kind of level-headed, and I really wasn't convinced that firstly he was going to stay past January, and then if he was, whether he'd play very much. But opportunity knocked, so to speak, and he's kind of handled it really well, and he put in a very solid performance. And I think it helps to have a moment. And maybe he's a nice summary of our season. Just couldn't function to his potential under Mark Kennedy, and now under Ian Holloway, he's doing so.
Do we sort of divide the season into BH and AH, if you see what I mean, before Holloway and after Holloway? Is that right, John? Are you with us back with us, John, now? But we can't hear you. We enjoyed your cigarette moment.
Is lip reading wise here or not? I can't tell.
Oh dear, we enjoyed your cigarette moment. It was a bit like something from a Smiths album, I thought, the way you were doing that. It was very good. We'll have to miss over that. Right, yeah. So let me read some of the comments and then I'll get that question again. This is from Carol. Not done the maths, but we seem to have had an incredible amount of penalties and opposition players getting red cards this season. Now, Daz St George's answered back. STFC have had the most penalties in our league this season. 11 penalties, 8 scored, 3 missed. 11 penalties. Yeah. Goodness me, that is a lot, isn't it? Holloway was on about bringing someone into the club to help him. Is there any news about his appointment? Andrew, any news on that appointment? I think it was a director of football type person.
I think, yeah, I'm not sure quite kind of director of football, but I think someone to ease the burden a bit on transfers. But the last we heard was the person he wanted was working out notice somewhere else. So I don't think that's going to move immediately. We will. Well, it's one thing we can ask him on Friday.
Yes, you can. Andy Williams from Moon River. Older people will get that one, obviously. Would love to get Cottrell and Nichols on board next season. Kirkman looks like he could be a real gem. And there's a question, this is from Kevin. Of the loan players, who would you like back, Anna?
Yeah, good question. Ripley, but I don't think that's on the cards from what you said about, family ties further north. I think my jury's a little bit out on Shimanga and Nichols, to be honest. I think they do offer something. We've got quite a variety of strikers. And as you know, sometimes we make 4 subs and they're all strikers coming on and they tend to play wherever they're told to play and do it pretty well because they know their roles. So, yeah, Cottrell, I think they're all part of more of a machine now, I think, which means, by that I mean, they know the roles. And whoever rolls comes into the team, whether they start or whether they come on as sub, they slot straight in and they deliver as well. And that's what the Holloway thing is. He tells people what they should be doing, simplifies it, as he said. So, I mean, I'm more thinking about, I suppose, let's turn the question around a little bit and think about what sort of player do we need to bring in. I think we need a keeper. We need a keeper who can command the area. Much as I like Bycroft, I think his shot stopping is great. I think he's not so good on commanding that, his area. We need somebody with a bit of pace up front, maybe a winger, or somebody to, run through the middle. And I also think we need a kind of a deputy for Harry Smith. At our level, with the type of football we're playing, if you take Harry Smith out of that lineup, whether you're talking about offensively or defensively, that's a massive gap because his bulk, his presence, his aerial prowess is such that it's a big gap. So that's the way I would look at it more and do any of the players, those lone players, fit into either any of those scenarios. But there's also the other thing to consider just quickly is work rate. And what Holloway also gets out of whoever he puts on the pitch is a damn good work rate. Shimanga puts in a shift. He stopped falling over as well. Have you noticed that? He's no longer on his backside all the time. He stands up and stands his ground. He may sometimes be on his heels a little bit, but he definitely gives us something. But there's some recruitment to do, isn't there, in the close season? And much of that will hang on who is still around, who doesn't get poached, who doesn't want to leave. And I like to think a lot of those players will look at it and go, I want to play for Ian Holloway. And I think that's what will make a lot of them stay if they do.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Wesley early on, or Joe Wesley was mentioned earlier on. I mean, he must be one of those annoying little so-and-sos if you're a defender, because he is one of those tough little guys, isn't he? And he backs in and he makes it all horrible and all that kind of stuff. So, Craig, I kind of like Joe Wesley. I think there's a lot there, but he's at Burnley. I mean, I don't know what his future lies, but, you want a player like that, don't you? When he comes on, he's going to get a shift out of him. And, Cottrell's improved as the season's gone on. What about Shimanga, though? Do you make a bid for him or don't you?
I mean, Anna's stolen my line about Shimanga falling over. He's got his own song now, which is good. So I think
he has.
The fact that he's
worth keeping for that, I think, isn't he?
It is, yeah. Of course, I guess we're talking about players going in the shop window. They're playing for contracts too, and my own view is to Shimanga. I don't think he's consistent enough for me. Yes, he's much better now than he used to be. You mentioned Wesley. I don't think. He always makes me smile. He's just so full of energy, and it's a good friend of mine I ground hop with up in from Scotland who came down to the Carlisle game and obviously saw him get a run out and score that great goal for us against Carlisle. So I've been talking about him a lot up here with friends, and I don't think we'll get him, but I'm not sure. It's not as we're not talking about a kind of a Doyle situation here. You know, there's not a kind of lone player who we think, well, you know, we need to build a team around him. He's indispensable. I don't think, you know, we have seen situations in the past where players have gone back midway through the season and we've kind of fallen away. And I think that there would no doubt be other lone players next year, and they'll, as Anna said, slot in. So I haven't got strong views about, you know, signing any of these lone ones. Let's just see what Holloway can do, and you perhaps use his contacts. But I'm a bit, I don't know, a bit kind of non-committal, really.
Okay. Sorry. If there's a fence, you can sit on it. It's fine. Gus, I mean, it's a slightly different system in America, because do you have lone players in American sports at all? No, I didn't think you did. No. So it all depends on the draft and who you sign in the summer and all that kind of stuff, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. That's something that we're not familiar with at all. On a slightly different topic, I was looking at our results, and I was thinking back on one of my. It wasn't a fun game to watch, but I love the outcome of Walsall when we beat them 1-0. And I was looking. I think we broke them, because they haven't won 7 games, have 3 ties and 2 losses. They're done. You know, they were so humiliated or something by losing to us that they're done. So I thought that was kind of interesting. One other just observation from the whole 3 months I've been watching the team. We're doing fewer and fewer of these 50-50 balls where you just kick the ball as hard as you can down the field. I have never, I'll confess, I've never actually watched a League One or the other 2 higher up league games. I've never watched one, so I don't know if they do that all the time. But to me, it seems like if you get the ball in your possession, just kicking it down the field for 50-50 and giving the other team a chance to get it back doesn't seem like a very smart move to me. I mean, if you can, and there are moments, of course, you know, in front of the goal or something when you just want to get it out of there. But if it's just chucking it down there to see what might happen, that doesn't seem like a very good strategy to me. But I think we're doing it less and less. We're being a little bit better at trying to move the ball up the field. And I'm sure it's tiring. You know, there's a fatigue issue with all that as well. But I just feel like I'm seeing that less and less. And it seems to me that that's more of a strategy to control the ball and win, and not just hope for good things to happen to you.
Yeah, those of us who played in Sunday League football will have spent most of their time just kicking the ball upfield, just kicking it out of the way. Right, I was going to ask you about a question or something that Ian Holloway said on Saturday, Andrew. It's about Grant Hall, because he kind of basically said he's done. And I don't know if Grant Hall knew he was going to say that, but that's kind of what he hinted at, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it just sounds as if Grant Hall's been having a pretty bad, well, he's evidently been having a pretty bad time with injuries. You know, we haven't really got many or sort of much consistent minutes out of him, and that follows the pattern he's had last season at Rotherham as well, where he didn't play very much at all. So he's had kind of 2 seasons where I think he's finding it hard to, you know, be at the sort of physical level he wants to be, or that, you know, it sounds like, you know, the brain knows where he's got to go, the body's less and less willing to do it. So, you know, it just looks like certainly his time at Swindon is going to come, I would suspect, to come to a close at the end of the season, though we don't know that. And then you know, quite what he wants to do next, given his evident level of frustration with it, who knows? But you know, he's clearly in a bit of a kind of difficult spot as to what quite happens next, because he's had 2 years of trying hard to be fit and not playing a lot of football.
Sure. And that comes off the back of this comment from Ian. He said, we need players who can stay fit, especially defenders. You know, Ryan Delaney is another one who's missed great chunks of the season, hasn't he, Andrew? And what you want is a stable back line, whatever you play, a 3 or a 4, don't you? You don't want players to be out for great chunks of it. Yeah.
As you say, you're kind of looking to establish that unit, that familiarity, aren't you? And that kind of, you know, I guess that kind of value for money almost out of defenders. And again, so Delaney's arrived injured and done, played pretty well when he's having this knee problem as well. But hopefully, I don't think they particularly want to kind of put any undue pressure on him to play in the last few matches again, unless he feels right, just to get him in kind of peak condition for next season, because he's one of the ones we do have under contract for next season, and when he's come in has done a good job and certainly helped us away from the bottom. So yeah, that probably goes back to, I guess, at some point when we all pick over the bones at the end of the season. It's kind of perhaps it's one of the reasons why it did unfold as it did at the start as well. Just having players and especially experienced players at the back, which you thought we were lacking, who haven't been able to get in as many minutes as you'd want.
Yeah, sure. Sean says last 23 games table, second. If only Ollie came in a month or so earlier. That goes back to the BH and AH kind of season. Are you with us, John? Or is it just sign language from that? It's just tic-tac, I think, really. So we're not hearing you at all. Your microphone's not working. Yeah, be careful what sort of sign you put out. That'd be great. Thank you. Because we... Fine. Okay. Right, let's have a look. The possession, you'll be desperately disappointed to know that Fleetwood got 54.3%, Swindon got 45%, 0.7%. So possession... shots on target, Anna, which is another surprising one. Fleetwood 4, Swindon 3. And of course, that counts for the fact that one of our goals was an own goal, wasn't it? So, that's why. I mean, and they had 10 shots to Swindon 6, which when you look at the scoreline, that's bonkers, isn't it? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it didn't feel like that, did it really? Because we apart from, as you referenced earlier, there was a save by Bycroft. I can't actually recall the other shots on target and whether they were. Sometimes the way they're measured is a bit, a header into the keeper's arms as a shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just going back to the possession thing, because I know Gus talked about this earlier. When you've been through seasons where we've had 70% possession, and the majority of those passes have been in our half, I'll tell you what, I'd much rather see it kicked upfield.
Yeah.
I've had this for too long, and I've said it before. This is the Pep Guardiola school of football, that you tippy tappy it around at the back and wait for that incisive pass. And if you're our level, very often that incisive pass, you never find it, and it's boring as hell, I'll tell you. So you get the ball up fast, you get it wide. You don't just hit it aimlessly, I agree. You're looking for those diagonals, you're looking for the man to run on behind. But I'd much rather see the direct football. And I think with Man City's failure this year, I'm hopeful that across the board, that rubbish at the back will get cancelled out, because the number of goals that teams give away by messing about with it in their own penalty area. And we have in the past as well, haven't we? Where
can I take you back to the famous FA Cup tie against Manchester City when we tried to do it against Manchester City?
Well, against Manchester City. I mean, how stupid is that? So get out of the pitch fast, get a couple of fast men. And the other thing to mention for next season is, providing that Harry Smith is around, or another big guy as well, which I hope he will be, is get players running onto that flick on. Some stats you see, Harry Smith is winning 100% of his aerial challenges, 100% flicking on. How many times do we get? I mean, he's got plenty of goals, mind, so I shouldn't moan too much. But how many times do we see one of our strikers, running onto that flick on? Yeah. They're always somewhere else. Mm. And if you really want to make the most out of Harry Smith as a striker and that presence he has up front against, no matter who is trying to defend against him and ripping his shirt off. Get somebody to anticipate that flick on and run onto that ball, a la Alan Mays, I'd say. Get on the flick on, slot the ball under the keeper, goal. Let's see what we can do about that next season.
Classic big man, small man. That's what you want, isn't it?
I always like that.
Yeah, it's always a great system, isn't it? You have the big man to win the header, small man comes in, bang, back of the net. League tables, we're not worried about the bottom. That's done. That's fine. I'm not particularly worried about the playoffs, I don't think. Swindon currently 14th, 54 points from 41 games, but with a positive goal difference of 4. How long have we wanted one of them? Fleetwood just above us, played 41. They've got 56 points from their games played. And Barrow just below us, 41 games played, a goal difference of 0, 52 points. Playoffs, I think, Craig, we can write off. Relegation, we can write off. What you want to do is finish as high as you possibly can.
Yeah, and kind of salvage a bit of respectability, because as we all know, nobody's going to remember the fact that we had X% possession and what have you. People are going to, in 20 years' time, people go, oh, that's the season we finished 10th, and Holloway came in and we did a bit better in the second half of the season. We've got to start thinking about next year, and as I said, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Are we going to give all the kids a go? It's going to be interesting. I predict lots of high scoring games, I think. There's no fear anymore. I think they were. You go back to before Christmas, those players were terrified. They weren't quite sure what they were doing. They were learning that new system. They seem to be enjoying themselves. There's a bit of, and I'm not seeing that for a while in the Swindon team. But still, I'd settle for 10th. If somebody had said that we had a chance of finishing in the top 10 at Christmas, I'd have been astonished, because I've said on here that I thought, well, that's it, we're done. We're done. And my narrative at the time was all about, well, at least if we do go down to the non-league, there might be a change of ownership, there might be a kind of different approach, and we'll go again in a few years' time. I'm astonished that we've stayed up, bearing in mind where we were, and I'm quite surprised, frankly. So let's just see out the season and start again, and hopefully the last 23 games form continues into the next 51 games. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we've got a very big game coming up on Saturday, of course. We still can affect things at bottom and top, so there are those games to play for. But I know Ian Holloway doesn't like to say the word beginning with C of a certain place in Essex, because it reminds me of a very dark night in December. It reminds everybody of a very dark night. If you'd said to us on the bus coming back from Colchester, we might have a chance of staying up, and not only that, finishing the top 10, I think you would have carried away in a white coat, quite frankly. It was so bad. Gus, you haven't been through that sort of pain. You are now signed up for this. Are you prepared for it? Because I know you've got a bit of distance, but once you get into this, there's a lot of pain involved as well.
Well, I have rooted in my life for the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago Bears, so I've experienced the pain many, many, many times. Losing at the last moment in the most unexpected way. So I think I'm ready for you. Let me just say, Anna, thank you so much for that perspective on kicking the ball down the field. I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, and fiddling around in front of our goal with the ball is not something we want to be doing. Obviously, we're not good enough to be doing that. So obviously, that is a recipe for disaster. Maybe there's a good balance between those two things that we could do to make it more effective. And the only thing I'd say on the last 5 games or 6 games that we have left here is, if I were Coach Holloway, and I'm not, obviously, but I would think to myself, set us up for next year. How do I make this a team that good people want to play on? How do I make this a team that our fans want to watch? How do I get us in the best possible position for next year? If we end up in 14th or 10th, that's great. But if we don't move down at all, but we can really make people think, wow, Swindon, I'd go to Swindon. I'd play on Swindon. I'd like to have let's get my agent to talk to those guys, so that Coach Holloway can really get good players in there. And has anyone on our team regressed this season? I mean, I don't think so, that I can remember. I mean, nobody's worse than at the beginning. Most people are considerably better than they were. So they're doing something right. That's about being better tomorrow than you were today is about all you can really ask of players. So,
yeah, very good point. I mean, I think there were a fair few that regressed in the first half of this season, quite frankly. But I think subsequently, since Christmas, I think you're absolutely right. There's been a lot of improved greatly. Right, on Saturday, we entertained the league leaders, Bradford City. You may well have seen that white kit that's been released by the club today, the special charity kit, which is in aid of Derby Rimmer, etc., which looks very nice indeed. And we will be paying tribute, of course, to Stephen Darby, who played for us and got us to Wembley with that penalty at Charlton, and, of course, played with such great ability with Bradford City in that famous FA Cup win over Chelsea as well. some years ago. Living with motor neurone disease, I think, Andrew, it's only right that both clubs sort of pay tribute to him on Saturday, and I hope it's played in the best of spirits. We want to beat Bradford City, obviously, but they'll come here wanting to get 3 points.
Yeah, no, it's good to see more support and different things for the Derby Rimmer Foundation, because I think that purple kit a couple of years ago was a big hit, wasn't it? So
yeah,
hopefully the white kit, which I gather the first run sort of sold out, but more in stock tomorrow, it looks like, online. So that's clearly been received well, and yeah, his stay at Swindon wasn't that long, but those of us who saw that joyous carnage at Charlton will hold Stephen Darby in a special place long in our memories, I think. And like I say, I think he had great time. I think he was part of successful times at Bradford as well. So yeah, it's good that he can kind of see that support. And I think Swindon fans who've kind of spoken to him before have been really good at letting him know how much that that sub-night meant to us all at the time.
Yeah, and it is a big game, isn't it? We do have a part to play in the top of the table, even though we won't be figuring in it. But Ian Holloway won't want to put out a team that gives a poor performance against the league leaders.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you said now a point, I'd probably say, yeah, all right then. But I want to win. I want to get revenge for that pretty horrible game up at Bradford earlier in the season. And yeah, so I think I don't think he's going to put youngsters in. I think he's going to do fair play to the league, which is what he should do, really. Yeah. And go out and try and win the game, keep our unbeaten run at home. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game. So they just moved into the top spot, haven't they? Poor old Walsall, as somebody mentioned earlier. We really did it for them when we did them at their place, and they haven't really recovered. So yeah, it's going to be a really tough game. They're not top for no reason. They're top because they're consistent, and that's the difference between them and the likes of us. Forget our first 13, 14 games. Even since then, we haven't been as consistent as I know Holloway wants us to be. And teams that are at the top are there because they are, and they deliver week in, week out. So you've got to expect them to come down and make it a really tough game for us. But let's if we give it our best shot, then we're not going to complain, are we? And I think the performances that Holloway is able to get out of the team, no matter who plays, a testament to his coaching skill, really. So hopefully we'll give it a good go, and hopefully 3 points, but we'll see.
Yeah, it was a horrible game. No shots at all, if I remember rightly, and a bit of a contretemps between Ian Holloway and a fan, if you remember that particular moment. Yeah, would love to smash Bradford and bruise their superiority complex, says Andy. Craig, what do you think? I mean, it is a toughie. They are in form. They obviously want to come and think, well, this is a game they'd look at 3 points from, I think, as did Wimbledon, I might remind you.
There's two answers. The first one is we're going to smash them 2-0. We're going to upset the form book, and people are going to comment on the fact that we derailed Walsall and now we're derailing Bradford. After seeing them play on Saturday, I'm very confident, and I think with a big atmosphere, I think we generally play well with a big, regardless of how many are home and how many are away. I think with the big crowd, we kind of rise to that because that will get our supporters singing, because they'll bring a lot. Of course, the other thing is when despite the romance of the white kit and and what that stands for, we know that stands for 1969. I was just thinking about Stephen Darby and that wonderful 2009 10 season when we chose to wear the all white kit at Wembley when we should have worn the red. Millwall wore blue, and that was horrible. So I hope that the white.
Why
kit,
did you have to mention that?
Yeah, the bubble.
And so actually, I've just looked at I've got it behind me. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know why I put that one up, but
that was a horrible day. But let's hope that I always think we look great in a white kit, and we always think of 69. But we're going to win. We're going to win, I think. And look stylish in our new kit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like white kits. I'm a very big fan of those. Gus, it's a 12:30 kickoff. So for you, it's what, 7:30 in the morning? Is that right?
7:30. I'll be up.
Excellent. Lovely. It's the league leaders, of course. What are your thoughts on it?
We broke Walsall. Let's break Bradford. No more wins this year for Bradford. How does that sound?
That sounds very good to me. Absolutely right.
Yeah, and if I just had to, I know we're over time, but I mean, we start off slowly. We almost let up a goal in the first 15 minutes against Fleetwood. We just gotta play tough at the beginning and not just catch up. We've got to get ahead and put the pressure on them.
Yeah, fair enough. It doesn't matter if we're over time. I don't care. It's fine. So I've got a question here, and I wanted to include it because we include all things. This is from Andy. Where do the panels sit as far as ground redevelopment, Don Rogers or somewhere else? Now, it's a thorny old subject, Anna. I can see you blowing. Andrew, what is the latest? What can you tell us?
Well, I don't think there's really much to report on beyond what we've sort of seen in the open letter now, where we have got some timelines for, I think, season ticket holders who are likely to be affected should have the letters arriving on their desk tomorrow. I would imagine, assuming we can trust the mail service, and then there's the kind of various sort of open projects about it. So the timeline has slipped, but at least there are some further deadlines the club can be held to. I mean, whether people are going to vote it through or not, I think is one of the more intriguing matters, really. And what happens if the trust vote doesn't give it a backing? But I guess we'll see how it looks. But yeah, so lots to see about that over the upcoming month, and then I guess more, and assuming it's all approved at the forum.
Anna, you're blowing. You're what's going on?
Well, I was blowing for a couple of reasons. One is, the club need to be really clever about how they put the messages across to get people on side on this. They haven't showed they're clever in any other respect, so that's I'm a little bit despondent about that fact. The other thing that's come out, and I don't know if you've heard these things about the Manchester United 500,
yes,
and also the same thing happened at Villa. The way the communication was done or not done to those groups that also need to move seats. They've been in for some 30 years, 20 years. So I've been in my seat for 20 years. Apparently I'm one of those who might have to move in the Don Rogers. That's fine, but it's how they handle it which is key. And I've just got no trust in that group to handle it properly. I want a proper. I don't want to just get a letter saying, oh, by the way, you're moving, because we've got many people are going to have to move. A part of a group that they've been sat with for many, many years. So don't just tell us you're allocated over there. Don't just tell us we don't know yet. Treat us properly. And they've not shown that they can do that with the supporters. That's the unfortunate thing. And I'd like them to prove me wrong that they're going to handle this well, as well as the development, not just this piece. But let's.
Okay, that's a very fair point, and I think I hope the club will invite you in and ask you your views on where you might want to relocate and things like that. That's my hope. I mean, I think from my point of view, you can't stand still in football. You can't stand still in life. And I think, okay, if you want to redevelop, do it properly, do it with the consultation with the people who actually matter, and they're the ones who sit in their seats. That's my view. Craig, what's yours?
A couple of things. I mean, firstly, I'm no longer a season ticket holder, but I used to sit in that band, I think, that is by the kind of hidden kind of access. What's the word I'm looking for? Not console, but
concourse.
That's the word. I lost
not the supersonic airliner.
Which used to, would have flown over the county there. Yeah, that. So, I agree. I think the messaging and just to getting people on board, because goodness knows there's been so many occasions when this ownership have failed to do that. Everything's driven by revenue streams, it seems to be here, and I know that's important. But I mean, this is a League Two club. I mean, I'm not sure that the opportunity cost of turfing out season ticket holders and reducing the capacity of that stand to put in a row of shiny boxes is actually going to be worth it in the long run. And I still think the sensible thing to do would be to just, make sure that the toilets and the Stratton Bank are working and put a roof on it. And just, even if that's a kind of little tented roof like at Barrow, but I mean, that if you're going to start doing something to the ground, stuff that's falling down, why are you working on the newest part of the ground? I still don't understand that. And I'm not being deliberately difficult. I just don't understand as a business model why you'd work on the newest part of the ground first. Surely you start with the stuff that's most dilapidated. So that's my view on that.
Okay, fair enough, and it's entitled to it. I think they would say that there was an area that was already built in to the Don Rogers, which was built specifically for the fact that they could put boxes in there. I think that's what they'd say. But of course, it will affect many, many people, and I think over the next few weeks we'll be finding out how it affects it and how they're dealt with. I mean, Gus, I know in American sport there's a lot of redevelopment. You mentioned the Chicago Bears. I mean, Soldier Field, my goodness me, that went through some redevelopment, did it not? So football, rugby, American football, baseball, they all go through improvements. There was a big fuss when the Boston Red Sox said they were going to move at one point, wasn't there? How dare you move from Fenway Park, etc. What's your view as an outsider, if you might put it like that, looking in?
Well, first of all, you know a lot about American stadiums. I am truly impressed. That's
I've
good.
been to a few, to be fair.
You didn't mention Wrigley Field in Chicago, where the Cubs play, which is
beautiful. I've been there, lovely.
Or something. Yeah.
Little bleachers on top of people's houses. That's the way forward. Magnificent.
Yep. I have a friend who actually dated a woman in one of those buildings, primarily for that reason. Actually, as it turned out. So he's probably not watching, and neither is she. Well, I mean, just in a general sense, globally, people fear change. We don't want things to change. We get comfortable, and I think that's something that the owner of teams need to take into account. Human nature. I mean, and also hypocrisy. We're going to give you a better fan experience by putting in seats that I can't afford. That doesn't give you a better fan experience. So if they're going to say something, it needs to ring true, whatever that is. I know that there were some controversies and problems earlier in the season. Maybe they continue on, but there's a spark of goodwill now with the fans. The team has done a bit better. Don't ruin that. Whatever they do, they really need to be careful not to mess this up. The fans are feeling fairly good, I think. I mean, at least better than we were, and they've got a big chance and they could really mess it up. Or they could handle it well and maybe make people feel better. I don't know.
If only, Gus, you had a direct line through to Clem with that, because perhaps you're someone he might listen to.
He
hasn't listened so far.
Andrew, just before you disappear into the darkness, which you are about to, what are you expecting in terms of time? Are you expecting some sort of news conference? What are you expecting?
In terms of
these redevelopments and things like that?
Well, I don't know exactly. We've kind of been angling for a bit of communication from the sort of chief executive or chairman for an interview, which we're still waiting on. But hopefully, at the very least, there'll be some chance to talk to them. I think when they do the sort of public kind of display on the development. But I kind of go back and I take Craig's point with some interest, because obviously one of the demands, or one of the things that was part of the purchase, was having to perform I think it was a redevelopment of a sort of minimum value, wasn't it, to sort of shut the door on it being brought back by the council. So I wonder how much of it is that this is the most straightforward way for them to meet that requirement, really, when, as you said, arguably from a fan experience point of view, you could do with some other things first. On the other hand, I think the hospitality is kind of, with the best will in the world, sort of showing its age a bit. I mean, even Fleetwood have got a new stand. Fleetwood have got boxes, and they're making some tidy money out of those. Even sort of even at Accrington, where you wouldn't think was bursting with hospitality, I think the sort of hospitality operation there is quite kind of small, but does thrive. And I think I know at least one Swindon fan who went to the kind of one of the games up there and went into their hospitality and kind of enjoyed it. So there is a kind of sort of route to getting some income up that way. But hopefully, as Anna says, they kind of handle it sensitively and effectively.
Thank you very much indeed, all. Chris, I know you are kind of involved in a short way about this, but you know as much as we do, really, in terms of what's going to happen. But I think we all agree the one thing they do need to do is to do it in proper consultation with the fans and to find out their feelings. And as Anna said, you may have to move, but if it's done in the right way, then let's hope that is the way, and it's a way forward. Chris, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget Fools Rush In is on at 9 o'clock, I do believe. So there we are.
2 things we didn't mention at the start. Congratulations to Annie Colston on her 100th
yes, I've got a comment about that. Yeah, her
100th appearance for the Swindon Ladies, and somebody close to our heart, Vic, Owen Foy on his league debut.
Fabulous! Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
Owen's one of the academy lads who we sponsor, so we've got a special interest in him. Bless him. So it was really nice to see him come on Saturday. So the biggest
and what a
smiley
popular. Big popular visitor to the junior Reds room as well, wasn't he? And you know, well, as all the academy lads are, they're really brilliant when they go over there. So
they're brilliant. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, panel, for taking the time tonight. Vic will be back next Monday. Unfortunately, I won't be here next Monday, but Andy will be hosting, and it will be another panel on Monday after the Bradford game. So have fun, everybody, on Saturday. Enjoy, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.